Hello, this is Rhea, and you are listening to the Nottingham College Journalism Podcast. Today, I'll be speaking to a special guest who has won the Once to Watch reward from the SJA Rewards and has taken courage over many games for football club Leicester City, including the FA Cup win in the final at Wembley. He has quite a portfolio career considering he has 3 jobs, including commentating for Leicester City Football Club, presenting for the BBC Radio for Leicester, as well as hosting his very own podcast called When You Are Smiling. The man who I'm joined with today is Owynn Atkin, who's here to tell us all about his journey and success into getting into the position that he's currently in today.
I'm Owynn Atkin, and I am the Leicester City correspondent at BBC Sport Leicester, covering all the games, all the commentary, and just covering the club on a week-to-week basis.
It's good stuff. First question I have for you was, what was the first job that you got, and what inspired you to get it, basically?
So the first job I got in the media was I was actually a volunteer at a local community radio station called Hermitage FM, and then moved into the BBC after some work experience, really. But I think what really inspired me to go into this space was that growing up, like a lot of people, I wanted to be a footballer, but I kind of knew that from quite an early age that I maybe wasn't going to be good enough to play in the Premier League and in the Champions League. And so I decided to look to what would be the next best thing, and for me the next best thing would be to watch football and be getting paid for it. And then that kind of led me, well, where would that go? And it would be into commentary of football matches and things like that. So I think that's where my interest really kind of peaked, was from an early recognition that I wasn't necessarily going to be able to play in a World Cup. That I would rather just be there and getting paid to watch football is one of the best jobs in the world, isn't it, bar playing it. So that was the kind of inspiration. I started at Hermitage FM and kind of worked my way. That was about 16, 17 years of age. And then when I turned 18, I got some work experience at Radio Leicester, happened to start freelancing there, and then eventually worked my way up from breakfast assistant producer to mid-morning, all the way on to sport, and then eventually to become the Leicester City correspondent. So I didn't go to university or anything like that. It was very much a hands-on, experienced path that I took.
It's really cool, that, actually. I knew that you did multiple jobs that you've got now, like reporting and commentating, but what I didn't know is that you were actually a semi-professional footballer before. Did you find your football career endurable?
Yeah, I mean, I still play now, but on a much lower level. Sunday league with my mates and things like that. But like I say, growing up, I really did want to be a footballer. And whilst I knew that I might not be able to maybe play at the highest level, I still thought I'd try and give it half a go whilst I was having my eyes on a media career as well. So I ended up playing at Loughborough Dynamo, which was my local team really there. I started after I played football all through kind of growing up, and then moved to Loughborough Dynamo and was able to, at 16, I got taken on by the reserve team and became captain of the under 18s as well, which was playing in like a Thursday night floodlit league. So it was quite something. It almost felt like a full-time football schedule, really, because I was training on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I was playing on Thursdays in the squad maybe, or traveling with the reserve or the first team on Saturdays as well, and then playing the odd Sunday game too. So I was playing an awful lot of football. I really enjoyed it. But then there was an opportunity with Hermitage FM and what came later with Radio Leicester, where it had to be dedicated to one, and I had to make a decision about whether I was going to try and kick on with the football, or whether I was going to go into the media space. And I thought the media space had a better chance of paying my mortgage growing up, so that's what I decided to go with instead. But I happened to go back into semi-pro football a couple of years ago, playing at Asperby, as well as we got promoted to step 4. So was able to kind of move back into it, but very much now focused on the media side of things.
Some good stuff. Moving into your current position now, could you describe the role that you're in and the main responsibilities you have to take on?
Yeah, so my current role is the Leicester City correspondent at BBC Radio Leicester, really my main role is commentary on match days. That's the kind of the big moment of the week for me, if you like, and whether that be at home at King Power Stadium or away, we follow them all over the country. The commentary of the game and the interviews, I suppose, that go with that post-match is what I do on a match day. And then in the week, I also present 3 podcasts on a Monday, a Thursday and a Friday for the When You're Smiling podcast, which is the BBC's kind of Leicester City focused podcast. So I present those and attend press conferences, and just I'm completely immersed really in everything that's going on at Leicester City, whether that's interviews, news that's coming out, breaking news, and all the preparation ahead of a game really on a Saturday afternoon or wherever it may be, and following Leicester City up and down the country. But I would say my main kind of responsibility is calling the goals on a match day.
Okay. Going on to the difficult parts of any of your jobs, do you have any like deadlines or editorial decisions that affect your work?
Well, because of our live programming on BBC Radio Leicester, we have a live sports show every night from 6 until 7. So I suppose there are kind of deadlines that we have to meet within that, in making sure that we've got everything ready to go and we have the very best show that we can put together. And obviously, when I'm doing my research and commentary notes for a game at the weekend, alongside everything that happens in the week, it can be a tight deadline to meet to make sure that you're ready to go, because one of the most important things in this job is being able to react to anything as and when it happens. You know, on a match day, you open up the microphone at 3 o'clock or a couple of minutes before kickoff, and you are talking unscripted for the best part of an hour and a half, and maybe even longer. So it's important to be able to have that kind of knowledgeable really side of things, and to have that editorial nous about what you're talking about. And with the BBC, the editorial side of things is really important as well. The BBC has a responsibility to be impartial, to report the facts, to make sure that that they are accurate in their reporting and accurate in what they're saying as well. So you have to be very aware of everything that you have to do as an employee of the BBC, and also aware of everything that could potentially go wrong as well. So editorially, we have to make sure that we're really, really strong in what we're doing, to make sure that anyone who's listening to it gets the very best product possible, but also the most accurate product possible as well, which is a real fundamental key part of what the BBC does.
It's good to know. I still find it impressive that you've got 3 jobs. Which of the 3 do you enjoy the most?
I think for me, definitely I enjoy commentary the most, whether that be for radio or TV or anything like that. I think being in a ground on a match day is up there with the best things in the world. It was always, before I worked in the media, it was always my favorite part of the week, was being able to go to whatever football stadium that I was going to be at that weekend, whether watching Leicester City up and down the country as a fan, and now being in a stadium on a match day, whoever I'm watching is always really special. I would say that's my favorite part of the job, and calling the goals as they go in, and being the voice really that gets to call a lot of important goals really across the Championship, the rest of the EFL, hopefully for Leicester City at some point soon in the back in the Premier League too. So I would say that's my favorite part. There is nothing that beats a match day, especially when you're there holding a microphone, other than maybe being on the pitch. I would say it's the second best thing to being on the pitch.
Oh, yeah. I thought you might say that as well. So following on from that question, what's been your most rewarding and memorable experience you've had so far working either one of your jobs?
Ooh, that is a good one. I mean, I was I was presenting the coverage for BBC Radio Leicester on the day that Leicester City won the FA Cup. That was an incredible day, you know, being in and around Wembley, one of the first games that fans were allowed back in during COVID, and Leicester City going on to win that game. Yeah, I would say that was incredible. But in terms of commentary, I was lucky enough to commentate on the Europa Conference League semi-final that Leicester City played in away AS Roma. And to be able to do that, to go to and be in the Stadio Olimpico in Rome as the players are walking out, and to be able to commentate on that game is a moment that I'll never ever forget. Really, it was incredible. I've never heard such noise inside a stadium. I've never heard a stadium be so loud. It was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. And unfortunately, on that occasion, for me at least, Leicester City didn't win that game. Yeah. But it was still a really, really special night to kind of witness what those big European nights are all about. And actually, coming away from that game, it just made me so much more hungry to go on and be able to do it again. And you know, looking ahead to the future and thinking, how can I be part of these more often? Because they are the very best. Those big nights in whatever competition, they are the very pinnacle of what my job is all about, really. And anyone who says they don't want to be part of those big nights are lying, because they're just so incredible. So I'd say that's probably the most rewarding part of my job so far. Certainly one of the most rewarding and fond memories of what I've done so far in my career.
Yeah, I can imagine the feeling.
It was so good.
To wrap things up now, my final question for you is, if you had any tips or advice maybe to give out to like younger generation of people that aspire to follow in the footsteps of you or any of your three jobs maybe.
I would say the piece of advice I always give out is to be politely annoying. And the reason I say that is because, you know, I didn't go to university. I didn't haven't got a degree in journalism or football commentary or anything. Everything I've learned has been on the job, and everything that I've learned has been because someone has given me a chance at some stage. But you don't get those chances if you don't continue to knock on the door. You have to keep knocking on the door for as long as possible. And then I always say you're only bottom of the list once. Because a lot of the time in this industry, you are bottom of the list and you're the last person, you know, especially in the early days in your career or when you start something new, you're the last person that people are going to call because you have, you know, probably the least experience, or, you know, you've never done that kind of thing before. And one of the most important things is that you're able to step up to the mark in those times, because either you move up the list because you've done it once and you've done a good job, or a lot of the time you might be off the list because you've done a bad job. So once you've been politely annoying, just make sure that you kind of try and leave an impression, really, and make your own luck. People have to make their own luck because it's such a competitive space. There's so many people, you know, wanting to be part of this, and for good reason, because it's a great job. So you've got to make sure that when your time comes, that you take your opportunity with both hands. That would be the advice I would give, because that's a lived experience, I think.
That will be all from the big man today. It's been a pleasure to hear his incredible journey into becoming an aspiring journalist, as well as his generosity to be able to spare some of his time to come spend it with us. I appreciate you all for taking the time to listen to this podcast, so I can hopefully inspire some of you up and coming journalists. I've been Rio, and this has been the Nottingham College Journalism Podcast.